This is somewhat a first for me because I don't really get put on the main stage, because when you apply a legal talk, they put you to the basement stage or the engine room stage or whatever. But we're organizing this, so I got the main stage. For those of you who don't know me or have missed the opening ceremony, my name is Vlaho. I'm a lawyer. I'm the chairman of UBIK, who is organizing the entire conference. I will try to talk a bit and try to bring closer to everyone who is doing some sort of a project. I'm sure there are a couple of you here starting something or are in the middle of something. You will unfortunately need legal one way or another. You can't really miss it. And I actually came up with this lecture because I realized that a lot of my clients don't really know what they need from us as a law firm. So they come to us and tell us, like, we need legal, like everything. And that doesn't really work like that. So we'll try to do a really fast crash course on what an average project in Web3, in crypto and blockchain needs from the inception to the end, which actually is having some sort of a tradable, listable token. This is what I'm going to use my predecessor Anita's phrase. She said, call this a full cycle. So this is pretty much the full cycle of a project from the legal side. So first we have something we call the phase 0, which is the idea. This is something you provide, and we really don't engage in this part because there really isn't a debt of a good idea, and there really isn't that bad of an idea. People come to us and often want to say, like, we are in stealth mode. We have this, like, the best idea in the world. You're never going to believe it, but we're not going to tell anyone. And when they finally tell us, because we have this thing called the client-attorney privilege and we are bound by it and we can't talk about it, it's never that brilliant idea. Ideas are okay, but what makes difference is the execution. Okay, so in this phase 0, we really don't get involved. Phase 1 is where you will need us when you start talking about a token. Okay, so the first thing is your project going to have a token? Like yes or no? Well, of course, it's going to have a token because that's why we're all here, in order to issue some sort of a token. So if you do have a token, you have to answer one fundamental question, which is, will your token be what in traditional finance, but now also in crypto, is called a security? Now, this is when we have the first, raised eyebrows and asking, like, what the hell is a security? Well, this isn't security, as you can see, and what you don't want to do is have your token, which is a security, okay? But generally, since we operate in the EU, mainly, in EU, security is what this particular directive, MiFID II, says is a security, okay? In US, you have something called the Howey test, which you have to pass in order to be or not be a security. But MiFID II says there are certain 3 criteria about defining the security, the nature of a token being a security. This is negotiability, which is like the ability to change hands, being able to achieve some sort of a price determinant. Then you have the transferability, the thing to be able to send from one person to another. Now, this is important. The transfer is quite more precise than sending, because you see HANFA I don't know if I have a pointer somewhere here. Yes, I do. HANFA is the Croatian regulator. We had a good panel with them yesterday, regulatory. And the thing is, why I'm quoting this is, HANFA actually has one really interesting opinion saying that you really can't have a non-transferable token. This is because they say, this is it's a bit borderline definition, but it really stands. What they're saying is right. They say your token is always transferable because even if you hard code it not to be transferable, so can you disable this in the smart contract, you will always be able to give someone the private keys. Okay, so no one does it, but actually, yes, the transferability can never be disabled. So these 2 categories often is where you fall on this test, or you're on the path to being a security, which you don't want to do from numerous reasons. I'll come to that. This is the third thing where you're looking to fail this test in order to be able to issue something that is not a security, namely an utility token, or it's called differently, but you don't want to issue a security. This is right similar to securities. This pretty much boils down to the fact that your token enables some governance right, or is able to give you some revenue share or something. So this is what you really want to concentrate on. These need to be cumulative. So all three criteria needs to be met. So if you only fail on one, you're on a good way on not being a security. Okay. Now, what European Commission says, this is also quite important, that if a security in question is capable of being traded on an MTF, which is a multilateral trading facility, then it's probably a transferable security. Okay, well, multilateral trading facility is pretty much a regulated market, okay? So this brings us to phase 2, which if you're doing a project, you will probably have some sort of a team around you. I wouldn't really believe in a one-man project, so you will probably need to address an issue of team rights, okay? This is a general agreement that you will need or will have someone draft for you, which is called the framework agreement. This is like the general agreement about a certain project, okay? What you see here in the article 2.3 is that you will usually in crypto, you will find this way of incentivizing your team members with tokens, and you will have this vesting and cliffs and whatnot. I won't go into many details, but this is probably best to address immediately in the start of the project, or if you haven't done it, then you will definitely need to deal with it, because it's difficult to change people's expectations once you're really down the line in the project. So my honest advice is to have all the roles and expectations of people aligned with your vision of the project. I'm talking from the point of view that I'm addressing a person who is like a CEO or someone governing the project. Okay, so then this also includes contractors. So you will usually not have only team members who are your employees. You will sometimes. However, we are in the time of remote work, and we are off the typical classical working, so you will maybe not have any employees. I've had clients who have 0 employees and only have different contractors. Well, you will have this thing called independent contractor agreement. Well, the important part of this is that usually a person who wants to work for your project as an independent contractor requires that he or she know how much they're going to earn, what is expected from them, how much input. And what you want is that there is always this clause that says that they will never be deemed your employees, because employee rights in various countries around the world have some different treatment by the law than just contractors. Okay, it's easier to sever the contractor agreement than the employee rights agreement. Okay, so this brings us to crowdfunding. You've probably heard of SAFT, which is a simple agreement for future tokens that became the industry standard, but it became a bit tainted back in the ICO craze of 17-18, but it's still widely used. We now use something similar. It's called Davos, which is direct agreement for voucher sale. Why the change? Well, because voucher gives you, treating an investment into your token gives you the right to only return the money you have received and not the inflated expectations of your investors. Now, did anyone understand this sentence? Because I don't think they did. It was very theoretical. In SAFT, which is a simple agreement for future tokens, you are agreeing that if you... Is anyone doing here a project? Let's try an actual example. Anyone doing a project and willing to talk about it now, just for the sake of... Great. Just for the sake of the... will you have a token sale? Okay, great, perfect. So you had some sort of an agreement that said that someone will send you $100, just figures are not important, and you will send them 100 of your tokens, right?
No, we actually have open minting running forever there, just getting for tokens.
Okay, so I'll just use another example, but general idea is that someone sends you some money, be it actual US dollars or whatever, or USDT, USDC, UST, and the thing is that you undertake to send them any number of your tokens, okay? So if you use SAFT, you have to sell them those tokens. Something can go wrong, like the basic example is getting hacked. So you don't have the tokens that you have to send to your investor. And you tell them, well, I'm just going to return your $100. And he says, no, I don't want $100. I want 100 tokens because these 100 tokens are now worth $1,000. And if you don't have that tokens to give him, you will have to get them at the market, spend $1,000 and give them their tokens. Okay. Now, what protects you as a part of the project and your project is the idea of selling the vouchers that you can redeem for the tokens once these tokens are available and if everything goes right. So what happens if you go to any shop like H&M or Zara or whatever and you have a voucher and they say, I'm sorry, we don't have that shirt available. What would you like? I would like a refund. Perfect, here's your $100. So this puts you in a very, very different position, having to return only what you received as opposed to having to return the tokens and the value that may have inflated. We're talking about bull market, of course, that may have inflated from the time you took the money to the time when you have to return the money. God forbid this situation occurs, but they do occur. Okay, so this is really the boring part of the legal lecture. For those of you who read Croatian, I'm sorry, I just wanted to provide something that is this is an actual email that I was exchanging with one accounting office, because the thing is, when you do sell some tokens, you have to introduce them in the books somehow, and this is not that simple. The thing is that when you do sell the tokens, using the same example, you sent 100 tokens to someone and you received $100 for it, which is an investment. Generally, you would have to pay the tax, which is a company gain tax. If you're doing this as a company, you would have to pay tax, which is somewhere around the world. It varies from 2% or 10% to 20%, whatever. So you receive $100, but the 20 is already gone for the tax. Okay. So there's this thing in EU called the International Accounting Standards or whatnot, which are not part of any laws, but are being people do adhere by these rules. Well, the International Accounting Standards tell you that if you do a so-called primary emission of some financial instrument, so you are the first person to issue a certain instrument, or to go back to crypto, if you are the first person issuing a token, you are allowed to offer a discount. Okay, this makes sense because this is not an Apple share, okay, this is something new, and you have to attract investors. So you tell them, I'm gonna give you a 50% discount. Now, what this helps to your project is that if you sell tokens for $100 and not offer any discount, you have to pay tax to the $100. However, the International Accounting Standards say that the amount of discount that you were able to grant to your investors is actually a deductible cost for your company. So if you say that the $100 you received is actually a discounted 50% of the $200 you were supposed to receive. If you don't follow me, please stop me, because this will help you a lot, and I know I'm talking theoretically, so it's not that simple always. The idea is that you say, my tokens are worth $200, but you're my first investor, I'll give you a 50% discount. So what the accounting standards say that the $100 you actually received are income. However, the $100 of the discount you gave are a deductible cost. So your tax base is zero, and you will pay legally no tax to the revenues that you have received from the token sale. Phase 4 is regulating your platform. You will often have some sort of a platform. This has really become a buzzword because you generally create something to connect either the investors or the artists or whatever parts of the community. You will often have something called a shop setup agreement, which is if you're offering a platform for certain people to put their NFTs over there, like an NFT collection. Imagine OpenSea. Each NFT collection on OpenSea is a separate shop. They set up their own small, call it a shop. You will usually need this shop setup agreement, which looks pretty much like this. Phase 5 is the preparations for the listing. This is what you came for. You want to list on a centralized exchange, mostly. If you want to list on a DEX, decentralized exchange, you don't need anything, like you just list. However, this is where the good stuff happens at the centralized exchanges, and what they will always ask you when you approach them, and they will tell you what their listing fee is, of course, they will ask you, do you have the legal opinion? Now remember from the beginning when we were talking about security, why do they want the legal opinion? Because they want to know you are not issuing a security, because this means a lot of other things and a lot of legal procedures, okay? So what you will receive from, hopefully, a law firm is a legal opinion saying your token is not a security. Now, we don't really just write that for money. Like, we don't write under anything, this is not a security, this is not security. You have to prove to us, firstly, that this is not a security. We have to sift through our project, look at everything, and come to the conclusion that it's not a security, or, which happens more often, is tell you these parts of your project make it a security, or make it come very close to being a security. You don't want problem with the regulators. Address these issues, come back to us, we'll look it. If it's not a security, we'll issue the legal opinion. This legal opinion you take to the SECs, to the centralized exchanges, and they look through it, and then hopefully you get listed. Now this is just a thing to keep your attention. This is maybe the most asked questions that we have received through the course of our everyday service is, if I'm using an LLC, this also applies to other countries, but for EU for certain, is, am I allowed to charge for my products or services in crypto? The short answer is yes. I will just put you again, this is the Croatian example, but this is available in many countries, similar provisions. First of all, we had this discussion again yesterday on the regulatory panel. There are two things that are often interchanged but cannot be because they're not synonymous. The payment meaning the currency used, so mean of payment, is not the same as a way of payment. Okay, so in Croatia we have a currency called kuna, which will be in effect for the next 6.5 months or so, and it will be replaced by euro. Generally, Eurozone and every country says that you are only allowed to pay, if you're using money, you are only allowed to pay in the currency that we say is the local currency. So, okay, in the US, you will not be able to use euros. They're not worthless, but they're next to worthless because no shop will take it. In Croatia, you will not be able to use dollars. They are the best currency in the world. Everyone believes it in currently, but they will not be accepted because this government, or to be more precise, the central bank says it's not allowed. However, there is something else which is a way of payment. The government and the central banks and the regulators accept that you do not have to use money in order to settle debt. Okay, so there is a way, there is something called barter. You and I can trade this thing for that glass. If we're both fine with it, the government has nothing against it. So what enables us to pay in crypto? Because remember, crypto is not money according to every single regulator in the world, except Honduras one, maybe. This is called the way of payment, okay? So just a brief translation. What says here is, this is notes, like paper money, cards, checks, I don't know if anyone uses this, wire transfer, and finally the holy grail of crypto payments, the rest. So crypto may not be money and may not be many things, but it definitely falls into the category of, well, anything else. So generally when you do, if you want to charge someone in crypto and they're willing to pay for it in crypto, all you have to do is put the way of payment, rest, like anything rest. Of course, consult the local jurisdiction wherever you're from, but generally you can be guided by this. And what you've actually received is not money. You have received something called like financial goods, and they are registered in your balance sheet on a special place, but it is not against the law to charge in crypto, okay? Okay, now that we covered that, we come back to the phase 6. I think I can, let me just finish, I'll take the question. Phase 6 is getting listed, okay? This is what you will receive if you were successful in getting a legal opinion that went through the scrutiny of the legal department of Binance or Coinbase or whatever. Then they will ask you to sign their token listing agreement, okay? I'm just putting it here so you know what it looks like. It's pretty much like getting a loan in the bank. You're not really, you have no influence over the contents. They really say take it or leave it, at least in the bull market. We tried so many times to change some clauses, and in the end it boils down to, well, listen, there are others who want to pay the listing fee and want to be listed, take it or leave it. But sometimes we do achieve some minor changes that are usually in favor of our clients from our accountability point of view, which is like not enough supply, getting hacked, or something like that. Okay, so once you go through this, the TLA or the token listing agreement, this is when your token appears on a centralized exchange. And then this is what you all came for, the moon, well, until 6 months ago at least. The alternative is this. That's it. Thank you much for your attention. You were the first one to go, but I think someone will bring you the mic. Frane, please.
So the question is, in terms of others,
Audits.
no, like
Smart,
means of
smart
payment.
contract audits or tax inspection?
No, the means of payment. Others,
Okay, okay.
are stable coins treated also as other mean of payment?
Yes, no crypto is money according to vast majority of the regulators, central banks around the world.
And how is that treated from an accounting perspective? Is that income, or would that be just
No,
treated
it's
as-
income. It's always income.
Okay.
And you even, one thing I didn't include because it would be too long is if you're from a country that knows the so-called VAT system, like in EU we have it, in USA they laugh at it, but the VAT system, which means that whatever you charge someone, you just have to add 20% on top of it and give it to the government. If you charge someone like 100 euros plus VAT, which in Croatia amounts to 125 euros, if I charge you 125 in crypto and I receive 125 euros worth of crypto, I put the 125 in the balance sheet, but use 25 euros that I have in actual money because the government doesn't accept crypto for VAT, obviously. So you have to pay VAT. You do have to pay gains on it. It's just an answer to whether you can accept crypto. Yes, you can. It's not illegal. That's the idea.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? The gentleman in the yellow shirt, I think, was first. Who was supposed to be the star of my example, and then he didn't have the right project, but never mind.
Yeah, I think the project doesn't fit exactly the example, and that's kind of the direction of the question. Most of the things I see in regulation do work for a country or another, or the EU or the US. That's good when you're establishing it somewhere, right? But it's still going to be making business with people from other places. It's still going to have digital clients all over the world.
Yeah.
Is there any decent perspective so far on how to deal with that very well? Because I haven't seen like anyone have a very clear answer on how to deal with legal in a market that we're going worldwide with clients from everywhere where we don't know where they're from. They're just wallets coming through. And if one of them is American, the SEC is on my ass, right?
Okay.
So is there any good perspective on like how to deal with international products in regulation so far?
You have one thing general in law is that you have to make your government and its bodies happy. So if you're setting up in Croatia, the Croatian regulator needs to be happy, Croatian tax administration needs to be happy. So if you set up in Croatia as an LLC, limited liability company, and you want to invoice a person who is doing design for you and he's from Seychelles, okay? So you don't care what his status is, okay? Everyone covers their own position. And you only invoice them according to your regulations, okay? You don't have to take into account every legal jurisdiction in the world. If I understood your question correctly, you're saying the problem is with the international relations, yeah. Okay, just to say one thing where you are completely right is the problem that law is still very fragmented, okay? I'm okay in Croatia, but I'm completely useless in Finland because it's a completely different legal system, okay? That doesn't happen in any other profession, you know. If you're a developer in whatever country, you're still a developer in any other country, okay? Law is very localized. However, EU helps somewhat because EU tends to what we call harmonize. So the regulations are really similar. For instance, Croatian regulations were created by us literally translating German and Austrian law, okay? So it stems from the same ground. But do ask like a sub question if I think I didn't cover everything based on how you're looking at me.
No, I think you're answering the question. I just think I don't really have a way to proceed from that because in the end, working in not being settled anywhere, being in a DAO where everyone is just working autonomously.
Okay, DAOs are a totally separate
my problem
thing.
is just,
but one thing I didn't address from your question is if you're like money is coming from a wallet. I don't know who that is. Okay, those things. If it's like investment thing, then you have this KYC and AML rules and whatnot, anti-money laundering. Okay, but there is no provision saying that you absolutely definitely need to know who is your client or who is working for you. Okay. AML rules do tend to prohibit anonymity or try to make it not work because, of course, they want to know literally everything. But generally, you are allowed to issue an invoice that doesn't have a name on it. Okay, the recipient doesn't have to be on the invoice. When you exit this room and go to the coffee shop and pay for the coffee, you will get an invoice, but your name won't be on it, okay? So this is like this dogma that every invoice has to have a name. It doesn't.
That's good. No, thank you.
Sure. You were, yeah, gentleman in the third row. Ovdje.
You said that if you give a discount to VCs or just to investors, if you give it
doesn't have to be VC, any investor.
Yeah, exactly. That's tax deductible. If you, like, if the evaluation of your business is, if you make that exceptionally high to get the same, like to raise the same amounts of money because you can give a higher discount in your seed round, are you then forced to give the full price to other investors?
No, because it's still part of the so-called primary emission. So this is the first time, if you open the coffee shop right outside, you would probably have a discount for the first few days while people find out about you, okay? And also, I know where you're aiming with the question. Let's say you say your token is worth $2. Actually, you think it's worth $2, okay? Yeah. But you give a 50% discount to the first round of investors at $1. But what usually happens is these projects actually happen is that every other round is a bit more expensive than the other. So you will eventually actually reach the $2. That's how it works. You give the 50% discount to the first guys, but you only maybe give 30% discount to the others. So your token is already at 140. Then the final round, you've done good, the token is almost out, then you say, okay, I'm giving you like 10% discount because it's hype, everyone wants to buy it. So you're already at 180 or something. So it's not doing it just for sake of not paying the gain tax. It's actually how projects work. This is how it works.
Okay, so no one has to pay the full price?
They do.
If you don't want to?
Sorry?
So we can choose to have no one pay the full price in order to gain these tax evasion.
Of course, but usually it's not, you will not paying tax legally will not be that of a high motivation if you're actually able to sell your token at a full price, okay? You have investors lined up to pay $2. You will rather take the $2 from them than to sell it for $1.15 just not to pay like 0.15 of tax. If you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, but I would put it at 5 and then give him like 60% of discount, right?
Yeah, but 60% discount is tricky because then you create the tax loss. Because if you say my token is actually worth $2, okay, so the 60% discount means 120 off. So your income is 0.80 and your discount is 120. So you've made a loss to your company and the tax administrations don't really like it. So the best thing you can do is go to zero. But going under will call the scrutiny of the authorities. And that's fine because they want to know why you're not making money, and obviously you are.
I love it. Awesome.
Thanks. Anyone else? I see one hand, but the glare.
Hey, I got a quick one.
Oh, sorry. Hey, hi.
Yeah, it was really interesting to hear about the tax optimization of the treasury that the project, when a project is raising by giving the mechanism of a discount. Would you be able to just go over that again? Because and then specifically the question is that like a universal thing that all projects raising money can basically not pay tax on the money that's been raised by giving the discount and then deducting that?
If you're asking me to repeat again, I won't do it because people want to go to break, but catch me up later one-on-one,
Sure.
No worries, if you just want the clarification again. But if someone has an other question.
Hi. Well, in your experience, your customers or your clients, when they approach you and they tell you about their product and their project, in what legal form do they prefer to run their project? Is it a LLC? Is it a general partnership or limited partnership? Creation, ortaštvo or
okay.
JTD? You know.
Generally, this is where my favorite TED talk is called Paradox of Choice. If you ever have the time, look at it.
Yeah.
You know, it's very short.
When you have to choose genes and there are
yeah, so he says you come to the doctor and he tells you have option A and option B, which means you are transferring the decision to me. So we generally, when clients come to us, we tend to tell them what to do because people don't want to make a decision that they're paying us for and that we know more about
it. But
so if you're asking me what my choice is, LLC. No, any day, any part of the day, yeah.
Okay. Does it ever happen that they really want to establish a general partnership
Yes, I don't stop people if they're adamant. I don't stop them. I just tell them. That's when I tell them the pros and cons. We tell them the pros and cons. But if they say, "Listen, what's the best thing to establish?" LLC. But people do have a reason to establish a general partnership. For instance, DAO. We call it DAO, but it's what you call ortaštvo. Basically, it's a general partnership, nothing more, until we regulate it somehow. But people tend to do also other things, like not make a company. We really advise against it and do it like a private persons, but it's up to, in the end of the day, it's up to our clients to decide what they want.
Thanks.
Sure. Another hand. I think this is the real fight. Team. Okay, this is the last question. They are removing me from the stage. Violently.
Hello.
Hi.
Basically, you explained kind of the three principles which can be used to decide whether the token is a security or not. And most of the coins we know basically satisfy the first two, this negotiability.
Almost always.
Yeah,
negotiability, transferability, yeah.
But there are also these governance tokens, such as Uni or similar, which gave you also the rights to vote on certain decisions.
Yeah.
How come that they also not constitute the definition of security?
Did you ever, let me ask you a question instead of an answer. Did you ever stop to think why Uni airdropped the tokens? Why are all governance tokens, well, most of them airdropped, like Ample Fourth, because they didn't take any money for it and they didn't do the offering. So this all applies if you take money for it, you know. If you airdrop it, and moreover, another veil of security that they took, they said, we are not just giving it to you, you have to come forward and claim it. So they just left it on the street, and if you qualified, you were able to take it, but they didn't take any money from you for it. So that's the difference. Or the actual answer is, it is a security. My opinion, of course.
Thanks.
Sure. Another one. wait, last one. No. I'll just stand here so I survive this. Yeah. Why last? People want to talk to me. Oh, this is actually the last. The gentleman, yeah.
So what are some ways in which we can distribute revenue to holders of our token without having it to be a security?
Sorry, I really didn't catch anything. Maybe it's the sound.
Oh, okay. So maybe that's better? Yeah. Okay, so how can we distribute revenue to token holders without it being a security? Are there some like hacks we can do in some way?
That's already a legal advice you're seeking.
Okay.
And that's billable. Just kidding. There are different models. Well, first of all, you are allowed to issue security, you know, because people don't want to do it because they have to spend 10 times more money on legal and no one wants to do it. But you do what's called a prospect and you do the offering, and similar like the banks issue bonds, you know, like, so you can distribute revenue and create like an ESOP partnership to reward your employees or stuff like that. It just requires a little bit more work. But it's not something that's forbidden and can be done. It just requires another approach. Okay, I really have to get going. Thank you very much for your attention. Enjoy the break, enjoy the conference.